to the ranking member, Senator Hawley, now.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. Thanks to all the witnesses for being here. Mr. Lynch, if I could just come back to you, because I was struck by your comment that the problem with generative AI as it exists currently, it's been built with stolen goods. Let's just talk a little bit about the sort of content licensing framework that you would favor. Can you give us a sort of a sketch of what that would look like, something that protects existing copyright law, something that you think would be workable? I'm not asking you to write the statute for us,
Sure,
but just maybe give us a thumbnail overview.
I think quite simply, if Congress could clarify that the use of our content and other publisher content for training and output of AI models is not fair use, then the free market will take care of the rest. Just like it has in the music industry where I worked, in film and television, sports rights, it can enable private negotiations. And in the music industry where you think about millions of artists, millions of ultimate consumers consuming that content, there have been models that have been set up, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR, these collective rights organizations, to simplify the licensing of that content. And the nice thing about that is it doesn't take a company the size of Condé Nast or the New York Times to create these licensing deals. These organizations can do it for all content producers. So, fundamentally, we think a simple fix or clarification that use of content for training and output of AI models is not fair use. The market will take care of the rest.
I have to say that seems eminently sensible to me, and it leads me to ask the question, why shouldn't we expand that regime outward? Why shouldn't we say that anybody whose data is ingested and then regurgitated by generative AI, whether that's their name, their image, their likeness, why shouldn't they be able also to have a right to compensation? Our copyright laws are quite broad, I think justly so. So, why shouldn't, I'm very sympathetic to this argument for journalists and content creators for whom content creation is a career. But there are lots of other folks for whom it's not a career, but they create things, they have work product, they post things online. Why shouldn't they also be protected? It seems to me that they should. It seems to me that every American ought to have some rights here in their data and in their content. And the sort of regime you've described, these are ordinary Americans already protected by copyright law. It seems that we should find a way to enforce that. And the way that you've described in terms of clarifying fair use seems to me to be a potential path forward. Mr. Leggett, let me shift gears and ask you about something that you said. It's in your written testimony, and you mentioned it too just a moment ago about this video clip, one of many, unfortunately, with the broadcast TV anchors that was manipulated, and we've seen this is proliferating. The New York Times did a report just a couple of days ago about similar manipulation of images. In this case, not news reporters. This was just the Times reported on, for instance, I think a doctor. Online trolls, I'm quoting from the report now, took screenshots of a doctor from an online feed of her testimony she was giving at a parole board hearing and edited the images with AI tools, in that case, to make them sexually explicit, completely fake. This is the classic deepfake, but obviously extremely harmful, extremely invasive, and then posted them online. Used these images, created these images, and then in this case, put them on 4chan. So my question to you is, shouldn't there be some sort of federal ban on deepfake images? Certainly of a sexually explicit nature, but shouldn't every American have the right to think, with appropriate First Amendment exceptions for parody, but shouldn't we have the right to think that, listen, you're not just going to, if you put a picture on Instagram of your child, it's not going to be scraped up by somebody, some company or some individual using company software to generate a sexually explicit image, or in the case of these news anchors, to put literally words in their mouth.
You are absolutely right to prioritize this issue. For local broadcasters, all our local personalities have is the trust of their audiences. And the second that is undermined by disinformation and these technologies, these deepfakes are going to put all of that on steroids, it is just more noise. And I think we have seen the steady decline in our public discourse as a result of the fact that the public can't separate fact from fiction. So absolutely, this is an area that demands your attention, this committee's attention. There are certainly some elements of this that in the expressive context that the committee needs to be mindful of. Certainly, we've aligned ourselves with the Motion Picture Association, and in the creative context, some of the potential carve-outs that they have flagged. But this is an issue that is existential for local news. It's existential for our democracy. And so we absolutely support this committee's attention to it.
And I would just say in closing, Mr. Chairman, to your point, Mr. Leggett, the reason that the public can't separate fact from fiction is in the case of these images. I mean, they look like the real thing. I mean, they're just indistinguishable. I mean, it's not a matter of, the public, they're not paying attention. They are paying attention. That's the problem, is that they look absolutely real. And whether you're a broadcaster or a doctor or a mom or whatever, I just think the idea that at any moment you live in the fear that some image of me out there could be manipulated and turned into something completely else, ruin my reputation. And what's your alternative? Go file a legal suit and fight that out? And I mean, most people don't have money for that. This just seems to me, Mr. Chairman, like a situation we've got to address and quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Senator Klobuchar.
Agree with what Senator Hawley just said.